On today's episode, it's almost Halloween, so we take a trip to Haddonfield, Illinois with today's special guest to talk Halloween Kills on GonstFM Off Air. Welcome, ghouls, ghoulettes, and guesties to GonstFM Off Air, the official podcast companion to 66.6 GonstFM, the internet radio station dedicated to the band Ghost and the wider Gonst community. Hey, that's you guys. I'm your host, Richie, aka Papa X. Today we have a very, very special episode. It's the first movie review on GonstFM Off Air, and I couldn't think of a better person to bring along for this than a returning special guest. The last time he was on the podcast, he was on the road to 10,000 followers, now sitting at almost 58,000 followers. He's also what I consider to be an expert of the Halloween franchise, and we're going to get into the film in particular that brought us together. Please welcome back my friend and yours, TikTok Papa. Dude, what's going on? It's been like a few months, but I'm happy to have you back here.
I'm so happy to be back, Richie. Thank you for inviting me back. I'm excited to talk about this movie, the song, and everything just circulating the Halloween franchise.
Yeah, same here, man, because first of all, this is the first time that GonstFM Off Air is going to have like a movie review, really, outside of Ghost. You know what I'm saying? So This is fun for me because I do this anyway on, my other podcasts that I've done before and the one I'm currently doing now. So to bring it here to the Ghost fandom is going to be a blast and a half. So Halloween Kills, for those of you out there that may be living under a rock outside of the ministry's front doorstep, Halloween Kills is the second part of David Gordon Green's trilogy of Halloween films that follows the original 1978 Halloween. And I have very strong opinions, as does my guest today, about this film. I feel like much like the Star Wars trilogy that had just come out recently, I was a huge fan of The Last Jedi, which it was the middle portion of it, and not a lot of people were. I'm a huge fan of Halloween Kills, which is the middle part of this trilogy. And not a lot of people were, but I think you and I have a huge differing opinion on that one.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think Halloween Kills is the better of the three. 2018 was great. It gave us amazing character development. But Halloween Kills is everything you want to see in a slasher film. Everything.
It really is.
Everything I wanted to see.
Dude, oh my God. It's everything that I wanted to see and more. Because whenever you see Michael Myers, you can think about the 1978 original and think, okay, the slow walking, killer. But as some of these films have progressed over the years, there's certain iterations where maybe he looked a little robotic, like the 1981 Halloween 2, which I still think is a really great sequel, actually. But as the times have gone on, including especially with Rob Zombie's Halloween, he got more aggressive, as his strength, his brutality. And I feel like the title of Halloween Kills was very apropos because
it definitely lived to its title, dude.
Yeah, it did, because those were some of the most creative kills I've ever seen in this franchise. And we'll get into some of those, pretty much all of them, I'm sure. But it picks up right at the end of the first one, 2018 one, and the flashback sequence, which I would love to talk about with you, because I was in awe in the theater seeing that, how well they recreated Haddonfield in 1978. How well Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis was recreated both in look and voice. It was like seeing a fucking ghost of Donald Pleasance on my screen. I was like, holy shit, how did they do that?
Dude, my jaw, when Dr. Loomis runs into the front door and he starts screaming, the first time I watched the film, my jaw hit the floor. I thought it was deepfake. The first time I saw it.
I did too.
And I don't know. Oh, so you're aware that that's all prosthetic makeup.
Yep.
Done by the great Christopher Nelson. It blew me away.
Oh, it blew me away too. And then seeing the guy doing the impression dead on, I think even more dead on than the guy that did it for H2O.
Oh, I agree. Wholeheartedly. And
it's not one of those things like, okay, so you know how you can watch a movie and you see something like that happening and it might take you out of it? This one did not. In fact, it sold me even deeper into the film. It's so authentic. I think that's the word I was looking for. It was actually very authentic and very organic.
Yeah, yeah, and just the way it was shot and lit, it was so 70s, and the film grain they used made it feel like it could have been a deleted scene from 1978, and that's like a huge compliment to David Gordon Green and his team because that is not an easy thing to do.
It's really not. And you can tell how much time and effort went into that. You can tell how big of fans they were because there were a lot of people that were like, oh, they butchered it and they butchered the series and all this. And I'm like, no, I think people are too afraid to take like a left turn, where you would normally take a right turn. This was a gamble. I mean, you could say that. I think it was a gamble for the producers and, everybody on this team to be like, okay, let's pivot this entire franchise from what it was and pick it up as a legacy sequel series. But let's go back in time because I feel like we kind of needed that flashback sequence because a lot of people that, didn't realize, oh, this is like a pickup from the first one and it ignores completely everything afterwards. We needed something to kind of glue those pieces together from 1978 to 2018 because like everybody, for 40 years was like, oh, he got up and walked away. How did he get caught? What's going on? This was a really great piece of film to do that with. And like you said, very 70s, the film grain, the lighting, even the recreation of the Myers house, dude, like that blew me away. I mean,
Dude,
talking
they
like
have the wallpaper torn in the same spot.
Yeah, and the same piece of the awning that fell and cracked a window.
Yes. They definitely, they know what they're doing. They knew what they were doing. And they knew that if they didn't do it right, fans would be pissed. So,
and you know what? I think that opens the doors, not to get off topic too hard here, but to me, I feel like that kind of opens the door if they ever wanted to go back and do like a legacy anything with like, I don't know, like a Nightmare on Elm Street. Even though Robert Englund just recently was like, oh, I'm too old to play Freddy. I still feel like there's something there if you wanted to do that. These characters are so beloved by the horror community that you can't really truly kill them off. I mean, anybody that saw Halloween Ends, they tried, but I mean, he'll be back. It's not like in that continuity, he won't be back, but it is
He's
what
already
it is.
coming back.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a TV show that they're making now. And Michael Myers will never die, truly.
No, but they swore in Halloween Kills that evil dies tonight, which, it was so hilarious seeing Anthony Michael Hall in this movie because I could never picture him as anything other than Rusty Griswold from the Vacation franchise for the longest time. Couldn't picture him in anything outside of that or like 16 Candles, his 80s work, really weird science, but just the fact that they were able to bring a lot of these actors and actresses back, even Sheriff Brackett, which, rest in peace. He just passed away this past August.
Yeah, tough. It was a tough one to grapple with.
Yeah, it definitely was. But I mean, dude, he was up there. He was like 85 or something like that. I mean, he was, I was surprised they put him in this movie or that they were actually able to get him to do it, really. So that was nice to lend to the authenticity of it being a legacy sequel because nothing to me is, which I get they have to do this sometimes, for film, but I feel like if you can't at least bring most of your cast back from something that was, forever ago, maybe you shouldn't do it.
I kind of agree. But bringing Jamie Lee Curtis in 2018 was enough for me to be like, oh shit, Jamie Lee Curtis is back as Laurie. Like that's huge. I never thought I would, after Halloween Resurrection, that piece of shit movie.
Thank you. That's how I feel about it too.
After Halloween Resurrection, I thought she would never come back to play Laurie, and we got it. And I'm still in awe to this day.
I was just having this conversation. It's not often that you see somebody that actually got their start in horror that actually will still come back to the role that made you, because there are some people that got their start and they don't ever want to talk about it.
Yeah, Paul Rudd in Halloween 6.
Yeah, dude, which that kills me because I actually really liked him in that. I'm one of the few people that enjoyed Halloween 6.
Which version, though?
Producer's cut.
And I knew I fucking rocked with you, Ricky.
That is the superior cut of that film. Anybody out there that wants to check that movie out, I highly suggest just skipping the theatrical and going right for the producer's cut. But I digress. Halloween Kills picks up immediately after Halloween 2018. Laurie Strode, her daughter and her granddaughter, daughter played by Judy Greer, which I love her to death. I thought it was a really great casting choice for this trilogy.
Yeah, and it was cool to see her go from Karen in 2018 not believing in the boogeyman or Michael Myers is going to come back, to Karen in Halloween Kills, who was like, fuck, Laurie was right.
Yeah. It's that scene in the scene where they're at the bar, and this does definitely feed into some current event things that have happened in the last, probably 10 years and have gone on a long time, with like a mob mentality thing, which I thought that was a really good, that was a good choice to lean into. It's a small town that has this legacy behind it, and he's back, and it reignites the fear in the community, which we, come to realize later on that is kind of the quote unquote supernatural take on Michael in this go around, is that it's the fear that feeds him and makes him continue, which you learn in Halloween Ends how true that kind of is. But the mob mentality kind of thing plays on real life events when, shit isn't being done enough, and the public would rather exact justice with their own hands. And being in such a small community where everybody knows everybody, it's absolutely coming to a head at the hospital later on, where it's like the cops can't even do shit about it because there's so many people that are like, no, fuck you, we're gonna kill this guy.
That is one of my favorite parts of the film, is in the hospital when everyone is wound up, and they obviously previously in the movie they show 2 mugshots on the television, and I won't speak too much on it. I'm sure we'll get into it later, but that is such a good representation of like just misleading, like that mob mentality. Just oh, dude, it was so powerful to watch, and just seeing how it ended broke my heart.
Yeah, it did for me too, because trigger warning, for anybody listening, 3, 2, 1. If you don't want to listen any further, like fast forward this part, maybe like 2-3 minutes. The mob mentality takes over to a point where the first guy on the mugshot that was shown on the TV, who was not Michael Myers, in fact, it was the second person who was blurred out. That was 100% him. It's the first face they saw on TV, and the first person they recognized from the television at the hospital. Karen is trying to save this guy from this mob because she knows this isn't him, right? So the mob kind of like takes over to a point where they bully this dude into a corridor, like on a high story of this hospital, where he busts the window out with a fire extinguisher and jumps to his death very graphically. And I remember them not showing him the landing, but I was like, oh fuck, I heard that. It sounded gross. And then the overhead shot, I was like, oh, that was like one of those uncanny valley moments where it was a little too real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he like flinched and
yeah, and that broke my heart, because I mean, obviously the dude is like, he's a criminal or he's like a psych patient, but like he didn't deserve that. You know what I'm saying? Like the dude didn't deserve what happened to him. It was fucking awful. But then them getting the wrong person after all, and they just kind of like, whatever. That's the danger.
Well, because they're all set on one goal. They're all set on revenge and avenging those, that Michael Myers has wronged, and anyone that was affected by his events in 78 and previously the 2018 movie, that they're so just hyper focused on getting Michael Myers. They're like, oh, we killed the wrong person. Fuck it. Let's continue to look for Michael Myers.
What was your thoughts on the sequence where he's coming out of the house when it's burning? Because, like, let's rewind a little bit here. When the fire department goes to put out the fire at the Strode residence, Michael comes out and, like, lays waste to the entire fire department in such a way that I hadn't seen Michael ever do on screen, not even in Rob Zombie's films. And Rob Zombie's Halloween, I feel like, had some pretty good kills in there and was a very brutal Michael Myers, played by Tyler Mane, who is a former professional wrestler and was Sabretooth in the first X-Men film. I like Tyler Mane a shitload.
I love Tyler Mane. He is, I have had several conversations with him. He is genuinely he's scary as fuck to be next to, because he's like 6'7" or something ginormous, but he's so down to earth and so sweet, and just a lovely guy. But the firefighter scene, we'll get back on track here. I want to start off by saying I thought it was so fucking smart of them to put Michael in the gun rack to avoid the flames. I thought that was a genius choice. And then when that shit rises up and that firefighter's down there, I got so fired up so quick. And like that's one of my favorite parts of the film is when he escapes Lori's house, because I think he kills I think they said it was 11 first responders he killed.
Yeah. And they had a couple of POV shots from the gas masks.
Yeah, and I love that it cracks when he brings the Halligan bar up to it. It's just, I thought it was done so well, and it still felt like it was Michael Myers, and they didn't do anything too crazy.
Really, all they did was just kind of crank the brutality up to 11. And I mean, think about it, and I'm not saying, hey, put yourself in a killer's shoes by any means of the imagination, but this man is in a full-blown mask. He's in coveralls. It's hot as shit. I don't care who you are. Fire is hot as shit, even in the dead of fall or whatever. He's coming out. He's like, guys, I've got swamp ass. I'm mad as hell. You guys are just surrounding me, spraying water at me. This dude has a fucking buzzsaw. These guys are wearing this weird shit. Because let's not forget that Michael is still a child in his mind, but with the brute strength of a full-blown adult. So he's like, these weird motherfuckers are around me. I'm pissed off. I need to wipe my ass really bad. I'm about to just blow through you guys and get to a toilet as soon as I fucking can.
And boy, did he.
Yeah, and I have to say, I have to point this out. The way he smashed the shit out of that one dude's face through the mask whenever he's on his back, and he just turns his whole face into like a bowl of chili. And you know what? I'm pretty fucking sure that's why Michael Myers is mad. He did not get entered into the Haddonfield Chili Cook-Off contest he worked so hard to make it out of that dude's face, and they didn't even consider it. It's completely inconsiderate, actually. So I can understand why he was like, man, fuck you guys.
Yeah, dude, a lot of hard work went into that shit. Like,
yeah.
I'd be pissed too. I would have done the same shit.
He slaved over a hot fire to make it.
But let's also talk about the mask and how it's burnt on one side. Besides the first Halloween movie, the Halloween Kills mask is my favorite mask. It is so menacing.
Yeah, because you can't see the eyes. I mean, you were never supposed to see the eyes, period. And I think that's a couple of things in some of the movies that took me out of it. We were mentioning earlier about things that kind of take you out of the movie. Anytime that I can see Michael's eyes, it sort of takes me out. I think it depends on the
Halloween H2O.
Yeah. That's the one too. That's that one. And there's a couple of shots in the original Halloween 2 where I was like, oh, I didn't want to see his eyes. Why am I seeing his eyes?
Oh yeah, when he first leaves the Doyle house and he goes to kill Alice.
Mm-hmm.
When he pops up with that kitchen knife, you can see his eyes clear as day.
I laugh at the weirdest parts of movies, especially in horror, because I guess it's just the way that my brain is wired whenever I hear musical stings and then silence and then like a funny sound effect when it's supposed to be serious. So like if you've ever seen Halloween 2 from 81 and the scene that Papo and I are referring to, is when he does, it's a jump scare. He pops up, which I thought was fucking hilarious because Michael Myers is supposed to be like this tall, menacing presence. And this chick is like walking to the door. It's like a side shot where the chick's walking to the right of the shot. And he just pops up in frame, like out of nowhere. That dude pops up like Rey Mysterio used to pop up out of the SmackDown stage in 2002. And he just jumps up and he just, and then like, what the fuck? It was just so, it was not Michael Myers. I'm not used to him doing like that kind of jump scare. I'm used to him standing somewhere, just being there already and just slow and methodical. That was a very luchador move on his part, mask and all. So,
and I'll give props to Dick Warlock, who played Michael Myers in Halloween 2. I love
Dick Warlock.
Loved his interpretation, even though it did feel a little robotic, and I will agree with you there. Just the way he moved, and especially when he's holding the scalpel up like that, when he's walking through the halls, there's something so eerie about it.
Yeah, there is. And I was actually having this conversation with Lee earlier. I said, I think that Dick Warlock might actually be my favorite Michael Myers from like those films.
Yeah.
Right? And I love Nick Castle. But I thought Dick Warlock, he probably gave one of the more methodical performances because it was very slow, very deliberate. No move was really wasted on his part. And let's not forget Dick Warlock's role in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, speaking of robotic, playing one of the pod robots, basically, in that, which that's a whole different topic of discussion for another day. Who knows? Maybe on Cult Macabre. Who knows? But back to this. Yes, I think that of the Michael Myers actors, James G. Courtney needs to be heavily in that conversation because goddamn, he delivers. He's so good.
It's insane. I remember he's my favorite Michael Myers. James is my favorite Michael Myers by far. Because he took Nick Castle's movements and just amplified them, but also he made it his own. And that's something so special because not since Nick Castle have we seen a Michael Myers, move so gracefully. I think that's the word I want to go with, is graceful. And I think seeing a killer move so gracefully like that is what makes Michael Myers so scary.
Yeah, because whenever we were watching A Nightmare on Elm Street recently, we were talking about how when Freddy's in the real world and he's not in control because he's not, in Dreamland where he has control of everything, he's a bumbling fucking idiot. Tripping over shit, getting his ass beat, slipping on a banana peel, shit in his pants. I mean, everything really. Getting burned again. But Michael, it is scary because when he's as good as he is at being bad, that's frightening. And there's a nice nod to the Halloween 3 masks on 3 kids that kind of carries from Halloween 2018 to Halloween Kills. Let's get into some of the kills because these are absolutely the highlight of this movie, aside from what I think is an actually great story. There's a sequence where they're at a park, and I'm not like trying to like blow through these, but like it's just in my brain where like it happens like doom doom doom. Old girl gets fucking stabbed finally, like his old nurse practitioner who was Dr. Loomis's partner, from the original. It's the same actress.
Yeah, and I was so dude when I saw her get stabbed like that, I was like, oh fuck, like that's fuck.
Like they got her again.
H2O wasn't enough.
No, gotta kill this bitch again. And they got her, in the front seat of an Escalade or a SUV or some shit. And then the couple.
And then I think his name was Marcus. It's Marcus and Vanessa. Marcus and Vanessa.
Yep, Marcus.
Are the couple.
Yep, and they were a doctor and a nurse, ironically, and they're in the back of this SUV, and he tries to strangle Michael with his stethoscope, and I was laughing because he's like, "Die, just die," and he just turns his head like. Really, bitch? Bro, you're so used to slashers where like, oh, people get their throat slit or they get stabbed in the chest or they get stabbed in the throat or, just, it's a big body part. I very much enjoyed how this movie, and actually there's a lot of films that are doing this now and I appreciate this. They're taking what if this really actually happened? It would be, you would get stabbed in the most awkward fucking spot ever and we're going to make it that. The dude got stabbed in the front of his cheek under his eye. The blade goes under the back of his eye and through his skull. I cringed, and I don't cringe at much when in terms of like gore where people are getting like stabbed and like, arms cut off. Like there's only 2 things that make me cringe. It's eye shit and bone through skin. So when
this movie was tough for you.
God, I loved it though. I loved every minute of it, dude. But when he puts that knife through that dude's eye, I was like, oh my God. And then the way he just was
I would say the way that the actor just pulls it off, the way he like leans back and he's still like gasping for air. Oh, dude, it's just like.
That was painful to watch, man.
It was.
Oh, girl, Vanessa finally finds the gun and she's coming back to the vehicle. I think this might be the most surprise kill I've ever seen in a movie. And the first time I watched this, I kid you not, I think we rewound this probably about 15 to 20 times just watching it back. Like, wow, holy shit, put it in slow motion, just the way it happened. So she's firing off this gun, right? And Michael's just sitting in the front seat and he just turns and the door's already open and he kicks the driver's side door open, hits the front end, like the pistol part of the gun, and it sprains her wrist in a way where like it goes inward and she fucking shoots herself in the face.
Yeah, Michael pulled some like John Wick, James Bond shit right there. Like,
it was crazy. He pulls the like that happens. He just pulls the mask off, and it is Keanu Reeves, and he just whoa. God damn.
And then Lindsay Wallace comes up with that bag of bricks and starts beating his ass.
Bro, she pulled a page out of the Step Brothers book. She's like, I'm going to fill a pillowcase full of soap bars and beat the shit out of you.
Didn't last very long.
No, it didn't. He chased her ass right back into the park. But first of all, like, he chokes the shit out of her. I had to kind of laugh, though, because the look she had, like, grabs her by the throat, pushes her against the SUV. I was waiting for her any minute to be just like, joke's on you. I'm into that shit, daddy.
I've seen so many people say that about her reaction. But she's smart, though, and she goes for his mask. She knows that the mask is what drives Michael.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people actually, like, put much stock into that. You know what I mean?
I mean, I wouldn't. If I was being attacked by Michael Myers, I would not be thinking that quick.
Right. And I mean, as far as, like, you take the mask off, he stops what he's doing, like, completely. I mean, that happens. That back. Yeah, it happens every time. You take it off at any point in the movie. He's just like, wait, oh, shit. Cut. Hold on.
That's a great sequence. And I especially love the aftermath of when Tommy, Allison, Cameron, and Lonnie get there and sees what Michael's done with the bodies, going back to the Halloween 3 masks. He has the doctor and the nurse propped up on a merry-go-round? Is that what they call them? And yeah, just them spinning with the masks on. And then we cut to see that this broke my heart again. Nurse Marion Chambers is strung up with the swing on the swing set with the witch mask from Halloween 3. And it's such a good nod to Halloween 3, and it's such a Michael Myers thing to do. Oh my God. I just thought it was brilliant.
Was this the first time we've seen him kill a child? Not see it, but like he threw that skull head at the windshield of the car.
It is not, because remember in 2018 when he steals the truck, he kills that kid.
That's right. I was thinking like in terms of like little kid. I was like, holy shit, dude.
Then
like,
yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I'm talking like child, like small kid. Like I saw him hurl that fucking skull at that car and I was like, wait. You know, I literally had to do like a triple take. Like he just killed a kid. Fuck yeah, dude. Because look, I'm not look. Anybody out there listening is like, wow, that dude's sick. It's horror, man. Like nobody should be safe in a horror film. I'm not sorry to say that. Nobody's safe in a horror film.
And it's fiction, and it's something, you know, this is what I love about horror films is they're fun to watch, but it lets you confront your fears in a very safe space. And I mean, obviously children dying is not funny, but when Michael Myers does it, you're just like, yeah, fuck yeah, Michael, yeah.
That's like when Jason Voorhees punches that dude's head off and Jason Takes Manhattan.
Oh yeah, doesn't it land in a trash can or something?
Yes. Right off the dude's shoulders, down the steps, off the side of a building, and right into a 6-yard dumpster. It's amazing. In fact, if you want to watch that by itself, it's all over YouTube. Just Google or YouTube Jason punches head off, and that's. But he moves on from the park, and we get a couple of characters that moved into the old Myers residence. And I love
Big John and Little John.
I love Big John and Little John. I love them so much.
I personally thought they were a great representation of a homosexual couple. I have a good amount in my family. And I remember people were not so happy with how they were portrayed. And I thought this was accurate to what I've seen. And they were so sweet to each other. They were funny. And I don't think it was over the top like people said it was. And I don't know. It just bugs me that people would go out of their way to say that about these two very real people.
I agree, because I have two very great friends of mine that are in a relationship, you know, and it's exactly how they are. The two of them, this is exactly how they are. It's a very realistic portrayal. So I 100% agree with you there. I loved those characters so much. I think that's why I was really like, damn it. Like I knew they were about to bite the dust, you know? So when it did happen, I was like, fuck.
But I also love what they did with the Myers house.
Yeah. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and say it because I think it's fucking awesome. They gated up and I loved it so much. Oh my God, it was great. I loved it.
It was so fucking awesome. And I love that Big John was actually smaller than Little John.
Yes.
It was referencing something else.
Yeah. Loved it.
And the two actors, Michael McDonald, right? That's the guy.
Yeah, not to be confused with the singer Michael McDonald. The Mad TV comedian, Michael McDonald.
Yes. Stewart.
Stewart. Yeah, I loved it. Look what I can do. Just...
I love seeing people like that get work. So seeing him in Halloween Kills just really, it was uplifting, and it made me happy for him to see him in such a prominent role in the film. I mean, you don't just live in the Myers house and not get a decent role in the film, you know?
You got to have an eccentric and like fun kind of brain to be like, I'm going to purchase the Myers residence.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed this, but when Tommy Doyle is out, rounding up the mob, on one of the benches, you can see a picture of them two together, and they're realtors in the Haddonfield area.
Oh, that's right. They sure are. Okay. Because I remember there being like a subtle like nod to that somewhere, but that's fucking great.
It's just awesome how much thought they put into this film.
And, outside of like the kills itself, I like the story. Really, if you think about how this trilogy progresses, 2018 is about Laurie Strode coming to terms with her own PTSD and her own experience. And it's a very honest and realistic portrayal of alcoholism and how one would use it to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder. It's very realistic. Halloween Kills, I feel like, was about Karen a lot, really, in terms of her character development. She has to be a protector now for her daughter. Because lest we forget, for most of this movie, all of this movie, really, like Laurie Strode is cooped up in a hospital, which I think is kind of ironic considering like this is the second part of a new trilogy, and in the original second film of this franchise, she was in a hospital. So it's a little nod there. And then Halloween Ends is about the granddaughter,
Yeah. I also think that Halloween Kills, it's about Karen, but it's also just about Haddonfield in general.
Yes.
And I thought that was awesome. I mean, it was just so cool to see characters from 78 and 2018 come back and seeing them all join forces against Michael Myers because, they want him fucking dead, although it ended poorly for all of them. I mean, it was just cool to see the effect that those events had on these people, whether they were directly involved or not.
You see these people who otherwise there's not like necessarily a mean bone in their body, but this entire ordeal pulls that dark side out of them. Even if it's a fleeting moment, even if it is only for this cause or what have you, you see people of all walks of life facing this guy, which there's a kill that happens before this trap is set forth, which I would love to talk about. It's one of the more, I don't like using the term over the top because I feel like it's fitting for this, but it is 100% brutal in terms of, fuck man, just kill this guy already and like end him, because he ain't walking again. He ain't gonna eat right again and none of that shit. That's
one of the scenes, that sequence I cringed at hard. If we're thinking about the same one.
Yeah. So Allison's dude is at their house and Michael shows up, in no uncertain terms. He rearranges the stair banister with his fucking neck and his head and everything else, and it's like stomping on his spine and like bending him in all kinds of really ouchy ways. Like slamming his throat onto like the cornering of like the floor where the stair drop off is, and like just beats the shit out of him, right? And Allison has fallen down these stairs by this point and has like fucked her leg up, and she's up there screaming at Michael like, I'm down here to basically try to distract him or get him away from her dude. And he literally leaves him hanging, like his head's like draped out of the little stair banister piece, and he comes down the other side, walks down, looks directly at her, and just kind of turns ever so slightly, grabs old boy's head, and just 180s it, snaps his neck. And it is the grossest sound ever.
I'm like low-key glad that Michael put him out of his misery, though. Like that was bad.
I did say that watching this movie. I was like, fuck, dude. Like, even Allison, I was like, Allison, let him fucking die. Like, for real. Like, I get like that human instinct of trying to save somebody, especially like if that's your person. But at the same time, like, bro, he's
not coming back.
No, dude, he's never going to be the same again. Even he would probably be like, why didn't you let him just end me? Like he would probably, he would have such resentment.
It was tough. It was so tough to watch because as he's coming down the steps, you see him just kind of drooling and and twitching and just like making these like moaning sounds, and it's so hard to watch.
The level of realism that has been added to horror movies over the years, I've appreciated a lot, because I mean, let's be honest, you go to horror to escape and have like, you know, like we were mentioning earlier, like you get to experience all these things in a safe space, and it's fiction. But we see like the most unrealistic things that happen. You know what I'm saying? It's like explosion and like a dude's head and body parts fly off, and maybe they go into like a basketball net. You know, I'm just spitballing here. You know, something dumb. You know,
Hey, write that down.
Yeah, I do want to write that down. Actually, hang on. So, yeah, we go and experience things like that. We experience, you know, insert character in space. You know, things like that. But I have appreciated horror over the years adapting realistic shit, like almost too real, in fact.
That was one of those moments where I was like, yeah, it's a little too real. Same with the patient who jumped from the hospital. That didn't really show it, but the aftermath was little. Yeah,
when keeping
it was rough.
When keeping it real goes too hard.
Yeah, that ass.
Yeah. So by the time that this has happened and he snaps old boy's neck, and Allison's mom, Karen, finally shows up and hits like Myers in the back with a pitchfork, like stabs him to the ground and stomps his head and shit. But she winds up taking his mask, because like this is part of the whole thing. Take his mask. He winds up leaving the house to go look for it, finds it in the middle of the street, and vehicle lights flip on. It's Sheriff Brackett. It's Tommy Doyle. It's the rest of the townsfolk. Even Karen is in on this, like she's out there with him too. And I remember seeing this, thinking to myself, are they, and even though we all knew like a third part was happening for this, I was really sitting there like, they might actually like kill him off right here. I really thought for a split second, because like they pelt him with like huge rocks, 2x4s, baseball bats. They're stabbing him. There's a gun.
There's an iron. There's a gun.
Dude, there's a kitchen sink.
Yeah, there's a kitchen sink.
Yeah, there's a kitchen sink. I mean, I think they actually may have pulled Hulk Hogan out of retirement to come throw the leg drop on his ass or some shit. I don't fucking know. They really threw everything at this guy, right? So it's not until this point in the movie that Lori, she gives a speech in the hospital talking about how, you know, it's our fear that drives Michael, and the more he kills, the more he ascends. And I thought that was so cool, because they've kind of done everything with Michael there is to do as far as explaining why he does what he does. I mean, lest we forget the Thorn trilogy in the original Jamie Lloyd, Laurie Strode storyline from parts 1 through 6, which I actually liked. I just wish they would have executed it better.
Listen, I love Halloween 4. Halloween 4 is one of my favorites in the franchise. Halloween 5, I'm iffy on. Like, I'll watch it if it's on, but it's not something I'll go out of my way to see.
Yeah.
I thought Halloween 5 was done rather poorly. And Halloween 6, I loved.
We seem to have the same exact take on this entire franchise, dude. I'm so happy we decided to do this shit. Goddamn.
Going back to the, you know, the more he kills, the more he transcends thing, that's something we hadn't seen in any of the films before. And I thought that was just kind of a good way to, like, mystify Michael Myers, make him supernatural, but like also part human,
right?
Because he's taking these licks, dude, and he's feeling them.
Yeah, like he got his fucking fingers blown off in the first one, like they're gone, and he's still wrapped up. Like his hand is still wrapped up. He's still wearing like burn scars, you know, from the fire in the house, and it's obviously he's feeling these things because he hid in a gun safe. He knew what the implications were if he stood where he was standing. So, yeah, he definitely has like that human element. But like you said, it is 100% a great way to mystify the character without getting too hokey.
Absolutely.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. Did they ever like give a reason for this in H2O or Resurrection? Because H2O and Resurrection was like another like choose your own adventure of the Halloween franchise, because like there's like a few paths you can take. But I don't remember if they actually said, oh, this is why he does what he does or whatever, because they kind of humanized him in such a way that they swapped bodies to explain how he came back from being decapitated in H2O. And Resurrection, they kind of kill him and he's just alive anyway. Like, whatever.
They never expanded on any like backstory in that timeline. In that timeline, I think he's just an unkillable force.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But yeah, they beat the shit out of him, right? They beat the shit out of him Fight Club style in the middle of the street, and they throw everything at him. But when Laurie finishes this speech, this is like the oh shit moment, because Karen stabs him in the back. Sheriff Brackett is like standing over him, about to deliver what I'm assuming is gonna be the kill shot to the back of his head with his pistol. And Michael, just with no trouble whatsoever, it's like he wasn't even hurt, just yoinks that thing right out of his back and slashes Brackett's throat, which I was just like, oh fuck, they got an OG guy, they killed him too. and bro, he lays waste to this entire crowd. And there's a couple of shots in here where he's stabbing and like, you know, tripping people and hitting them in midair and shit. I'm like, fuck, man, did Jackie Chan coordinate this fucking sequence? Because like, this is like some Avengers looking shit at some parts. And and I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just kind of like, motherfucker, these guys were just like, Haddonfield, assemble. He beat the shit out of this guy, and he's like, nah, man, he's hulking out, really.
No, but he takes them all out one by one. And something that I thought was really smart, to backtrack a little bit during the actual fight sequence, is that Michael, the guy with the gun, Michael went for him first. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, he sliced his wrist.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was a really good touch. So he takes out this whole mob, this entire mob, ends up killing Tommy Doyle right at the end with his own baseball bat, which I thought was fucked up. But
yeah,
good for you, Michael. More power to you.
What?
And go ahead.
Oh no, I was just laughing because I'm sitting here. I don't know why. I don't know why Adam Sandler going Louisville fucking slugger came to mind, but that's the first thing that came to mind. Is like Michael Myers like finally getting Tommy Doyle. You know,
you're gonna have to edit that. You have to get that, put that soundbite in right there.
I'll fucking count and fisk your fucking head with a Louisville fucking slugger. What do you think of that ass fuck?
Just beats his ass.
So after he kills this whole mob, Karen goes back into the Myers house, stands in Judith Myers' window, and tries to take in this whole, like, I think we finally got him type shit. And then he steps out from right behind her and kills Karen, dog. How'd you feel about that?
I will be honest with you, I loved it. If you know the third one's coming, it's easier to give us an ending like you gave us with this. Now, there are two endings. There's a director's cut ending and a theatrical ending. We'll discuss the theatrical ending, and then like there's the director's cut ending, which I thought was good too, but I understand. I feel like the theatrical one was like a little more impactful. So Karen is standing in the window, and there was a whole conversation about how Michael Myers would stand in that very window, and they were like, is he looking at himself or is he looking through the window? You know, because you could see your own reflection in windows like that sometimes. And, you know, they're like, oh, we don't really know. You know, maybe he sees himself, you know, and sees the person he is, or he's looking through the window as he looks through you. He does not see a person when he's killing you. He's a machine. He just does what he does, right? So that's a good parallel for when she's standing there and then he pops up behind her and he murks the shit out of her, like real hard.
And I loved how it ended in the theatrical cut. And I love the extended cut as well. To me, it felt like the Empire Strikes Back of the trilogy.
Yes. Michael
Myers won. And it just ends.
Guys, he's not kidding. Like they really just cut the credits right there. Like, they do. They fucking do. Because you're waiting on something else to happen, and then the screen cuts to black. And it's just like, oh, okay.
And I also love one of the very last shots. We get to see what Michael's looking at. And he's looking right back at himself. It answers the question. He's looking at himself, looking at his reflection, looking at the 6-year-old boy that lives within him. It was so powerful. And it was so telling that this grown ass, I think it was 61 in Halloween 18 and Kills, has this 6-year-old mentality. I thought it was genius.
It's not even a regression. He was stunted going all the way back to 1963 when the Judith Myers murder happens, and he's locked away. He's in a mental institution from then forward. He breaks out at 21. He still has that mentality 40 years after the fact, and he's patiently waiting and biding his time every moment of this.
Not looking at the wall, staring past the wall.
Yeah,
looking at this very night, Sheriff.
Dude, so the whole "I shot him 6 times" line from the original, the second film, he's like, "I shot him 6 times." I was laughing because by the time they get to the end of that one, he shoots him 5 more times. And so I kept sitting there going, is he going to be like, "I shot him 6 plus 5 times. That's 11. 11 times." Like, counting with Dr. Loomis, Thursday night at 7 p.m. only on TNT. So
1, a 2,
a 3. Count Loomis. Man, I would pay money to see that. I would pay money to see Michael Myers on Sesame Street.
Bro, speaking of Count Loomis, did you know that Christopher Lee was originally offered the role as Dr. Loomis?
100% did. And can you imagine how different that would have been?
Dude, I don't know if it'd be the same thing, honestly, because Donald Pleasance gave such a performance in that film.
Yeah, that's the same kind of thing I had when it was revealed that David Warner was almost Krueger instead of Robert Englund. That would not have been the same franchise.
Mm-mm. So I'm glad they went with Donald Pleasance.
Yeah.
He's irreplaceable. He's irreplaceable as Dr. Loomis.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And not to mention that I love Donald Pleasance anyway. I think he's a fantastic actor. I loved him in Escape from New York and Prince of Darkness. Dude, like...
And You Only Live Twice. He was a Bond. He was the original Blofeld.
Yeah.
Which is fucking awesome.
Fucking legend. And we were speaking about Bond earlier. Were we not?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Full circle.
Yeah, exactly, dude. That's perfect. But yeah, so Halloween Kills ends on a cliffhanger to bring you to Halloween Ends, which I would love to have you back on to talk about that sometime, like as a movie as a whole. But,
I have so many thoughts about Halloween Ends.
Yeah, same here, dude.
I mean, there's some things I loved in Halloween Ends, and there are things I hated. I love the film for what it is. But we'll talk about that. Bring me on in the future. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. But what brings us here today, outside of just our love for this character, this franchise, this movie, everything to do with it, our love of horror, we are here because of our also shared love of the band Ghost, which had the song Hunter's Moon during the end credits of this. And I remember hearing that song during the end credits. And this is like before I knew that was Ghost. And I heard it. I was like, this is different. Like it was one of those things where like they started putting, like they would get rock bands to do music for film and like, no, can you write a song for this movie? And Tobias had come out and be like, yeah, I wrote this song for this movie. However, there's like 2 cuts of Hunter's Moon. There's the film version, which we hear during the end credits. You can find this on YouTube. Like you can find the original song on YouTube. And also, if you have a copy of the single of Hunter's Moon from Ghost, there's the Impera cut and also the film version on there as well. So I am very partial to the film version, and it's not because it's the first version of it that I heard. I think it's better composed.
I agree, and and to me it fits the Halloween vibe better. It's less metal and it feels more orchestrated, if that makes sense. And
yeah.
the choir in that song also pairs so well with the choir in the Halloween Kills soundtrack that John Carpenter had went and added. And the instrumentation is so different, and it's so like almost mellow, and it almost feels like CCR almost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it definitely does. And there's a couple of differences there. In fact, like, so the Impera version of Hunter's Moon is a lot more guitar driven, and it's more prog. It's more prog rock. There's even a different drummer on the track because Ludwig Kinberg is the drummer for the Hunter's Moon cut on Halloween Kills, and it's a little more straightforward. Like the same kind of stabs are there, and the bridge. Like the song is composed as far as like, here's what happens in the verses and the chorus. Here's what happens in the bridge and the guitar solo. Well, the guitar solo on the Impera cut, but where the bridge of the song is and the ending. But the instrumentation pieces are vastly different. In fact, there's actually a mashup, which I'll post in the show notes if anybody wants to take a listen. There's actually a person on YouTube that did a mashup of both cuts of that song, and it's very well done, actually, like where they put specific pieces of that song in sequence, and it fits. In fact, I actually wish that was the actual recorded version we got, was like an amalgamation of both these cuts. Because
that's what I was just telling Rouge the other day, because I mean, I know the exact video you're talking about, because I will go out of my way to listen to that shit, because it takes the best of both tracks and combines them. And I love that the guitar solo goes straight into that choir thing that they had in the movie cut. And it just feels fuller, and it I don't know, man. There's something about it. It's just, I really wish that was the studio track, but I get why it wasn't.
Sure, yeah, because like whether they went to do the version we now hear on Impera, like they wanted to make it flow as far as the production quality sounding the exact same and matching every other track across the board. Totally understand, totally get that, which here's a small blurb. I'm eventually going to review Impera as an entire album, but here's a little bit of information I want to drop while we're on the subject of the differences between these two. Ludwig Kinberg would record on full acoustic drum sets. Anybody out there that does not know this, I'm probably going to blow your mind here. The drummer on Impera is on a hybrid drum set where the cymbals, the snare drum, and the bass drum are actually electronic. And the only actual acoustic drums are these 6 or 8 toms that are across the top and the side of the drum kit with no bottom heads on it. So that's why you had that real 70s like tom sound on there. The toms are the only actual acoustic drum kit that are acoustic drums that are being played on Impera. Everything else is electronic. But it's an electronic set that uses real acoustic drum sampling on it, and I know why they did that. This is a total like nerd fucking production, like brain spew that I'm having, so I apologize. It was actually to also cut the cymbal bleed and the snare and mic bleed from like the toms. That way everything got its own dialed in sound. That's why the drums actually sound as good as they do on that record. So I understand wanting to have that sound on Hunter's Moon because it works for both. But like Papa was saying here, I wish we had the best of both worlds on a recorded version, which I will still go out of my way to listen to that YouTube mashup because it's god tier. It's so good.
And I love that they take clips from the Halloween movies and they will like edit it to the lyrics. I just thought that was phenomenal too.
Same.
I'm such a nerd about the Halloween series though.
Same here. I'm the nerd down to like just the small things that like I used to notice that whenever they started actually like speaking about out loud, I was like, oh, finally they're going to acknowledge it. Like when the pumpkin, like I love that they kept the pumpkin zoom in for most of this franchise. However, I really liked the first Halloween where the pumpkin's left eye and the nose are in the silhouette of Myers' mask and the knife, like the nose being like the blade of the knife. And, you know, that's so cool. I love little small shit like that. Hats off to him for actually like doing, in my opinion, I know many people may not share the opinion that you and I are speaking of here, but I really thought they did a good job, all things considered. It could have been much worse, you know. I've seen people drop the balls on balls. I've seen people drop the balls on horror movies before, but I don't think this one really had the ball dropped. In fact, I think they elevated the game, and whoever takes over this franchise next needs to do a better job or like do better than they did because they're going to need to.
No, I agree. I agree completely. There's a lot of fan service that I appreciated from, you know, the opening sequence with the pumpkin coming back to life in 2018. To the little 78 soundtrack snippets they'd sneak in, like when Laurie's having a breakdown at the dinner, they play a snippet of Laurie's theme. It's the little things like that make me go, oh, that little what's his the Wolf of Wall Street meme?
Dude, yeah, where he snaps his fingers and like leans forward and points to the TV. Bro, I have that moment at least twice a day with something different, and that right there is no different. So let's talk about, like, before we get out of here, let's definitely talk about the score, because as we know, John Carpenter is not just a director. John Carpenter is not just a writer. He's not just a really cool guy that plays video games on streams, all this shit. Dude, he's a very accomplished musician and composer, and not only does he do it, he does it with his son and Daniel Davies, who I believe is related to the family somehow as well. It's the three of them that worked on the music for all three of these films. So
correct, yes. And I'm trying to remember how they know Daniel. It might be a friend of John's kid, but I know that back when John Carpenter would tour, they were a part of his band. I do know that.
He's his godson, if I remember right.
Godson. Okay, that sounds right. That sounds right.
Because Daniel is Dave Davies' kid, and that's the guitar player from the Kinks.
That's pretty fucking cool.
He used to, hey, at one point, not to get all too off track here, like Daniel Davies, the reason I know who that is because he actually briefly fronted CKY for a couple years.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, he did a few tours with them, like as their singer and guitarist. So
that's badass, actually.
Yeah. Small world. But I was excited to see the three of them do this together because, dude, John Carpenter's kid is fucking amazing as well. So
yeah, but the score for this film alone. I mean, I loved what they did with 2018. I thought the 2018 actually this whole trilogy, the entire trilogy has an amazing soundtrack. But specifically Halloween Kills. I like that John Carpenter tried to do something different and add, synthetic choirs, and it worked so well. Also, not to mention the mix of, the classic synth, the piano, and the electric guitar.
Okay, so going to 2018, that brought back a memory right there, okay? So I'm in the theater, right? Seeing this for the very first time, the 2018 Halloween. And the whole time I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this is amazing. The score is really good. I'm sitting there fangirling and like invested and in awe and jealous at the same time because I'm like, fuck, I wish I wrote shit like this. I love scoring work. Like I do some of that shit on my own free time. And I'm listening to this score, right? And the scene where he just finishes killing old boy on the fence and
Oscar.
Yeah, dude, and it's the part in the score where they run, like they pull a Jimmy Page and they run the bow across the guitar, and it's this real like sound. I was like, oh, this is I got chills when I heard that. I was like, this is so good,
so good.
It's metal
combined
as fuck.
With the synth, the super fast. Yeah, dude, it's so. That was my favorite new track from 2018.
Yeah,
but. When I think of the score for Kills, there's a sequence that comes in mind, and it's actually so similar to that. It is when Michael walks out of the house chasing Karen, and we hear the and then the piano cuts out, and we still have the choir and the bass synth, and then the lights come on, and then you get the piano, everything comes back in, and it's so sick. And then he goes to pick up his mask, and we get that same sting with that guitar, and it's like, oh,
that's when shit was getting real. I was seeing him put that mask on, thinking to myself, like, oh, God, y'all fucked up. Y'all done fucked up so bad. Like, you might get a few licks in, but you guys are screwed when he comes to.
But yeah, the Kills soundtrack is so good. I listen to it, like, unironically, often.
Dude, I listen to that one pretty often as well. In fact, it's that and the soundtrack for Halloween 3 Season of the Witch are two of my favorite John Carpenter scores. In fact, like John Carpenter period is one of my favorite synthesizer composers. The work he did on Escape from New York was really fucking cool. And Halloween 3 it's a very special entry to me, soundtrack wise, because it was that era in time. And you can tell, actually, like from Halloween 78 to Halloween 2, 1981, when they revamped the original piano score and put electric piano, like synthesizer.
Bro, it's so good.
Yeah.
Love the Halloween 2 score.
Yeah. And then Season of the Witch comes out, and I'm like, oh, man, this is even better. It's that, anybody that's a synthwave artist out there that listens to synthwave music, you have John Carpenter to thank for some of that shit. You have people like John Carpenter and Giorgio Moroder to thank for that shit.
Definitely paved the way for dark synthwave.
Yes.
1,000%. And you will still hear John Carpenter's influence in scores today. I mean, go watch Stranger Things and tell me that soundtrack wasn't inspired by John Carpenter.
100%. The influence continues, but I'm happy to still see him do it himself.
Me too. I'm glad to see that he came back for these 3 films and gave us what I think is the most incredible scores in the franchise.
Am I alone on this when I say that I was already going to see these, right? Okay, like when I found out they were making it, I was already going to go see them. But as soon as I heard Carpenter was going to come back and compose music for this, I was like, okay, I'm 100% locked in for this shit.
Oh, absolutely. And then shortly after that, I think they posted a picture of Jamie Lee Curtis in front of the Doyle house and said that she was back too.
Yep.
I was right then and there, but I was like, this is going to be something so fucking special.
Yeah. And then they had to go and add Ghost into the mix for the second one. And then it was just, I was like, all right, good. We're fucking, you don't even have to make any more of these. Like, I'm good.
This movie is the sole reason I got into Ghost.
And that's beautiful. That's a beautiful fucking thing right there. I love hearing that. And this is proof positive that I think horror is a good gateway genre of film to get into bands or music, because most horror movies nowadays have metal soundtracks. Like if there's not a score, which most film scores get put out, but like Freddy vs. Jason had, like, I remember the soundtrack being one of the more popular things about that release was it was like 20 something like new metal bands on there, and I was like, man, soundtrack is awesome. And there's a lot of bands at the time that I knew were around, but I hadn't gotten around to listen to. So like I would put that on and jam it, and I'm into a lot of those same bands to this day. So I love hearing anybody getting introduced to a new band. I mean, obviously Ghost, like we're into Ghost, and like I got into Ghost. Everybody's heard the stories of how I got into the band, but like I loved hearing that like this is how you got into them. So
yeah, because I remember I was on a flight to LA to see Halloween Kills early, and that song had just dropped, and that was one of the only songs I had downloaded on my phone for this 5-hour flight. So I just kept listening to it and falling in love with it. I was like, damn, this is good. And then I have two very good friends of mine. One of them is actually Poetry Ghoul. He has loved Ghost since 2016. And I was like, dude, you got to check this out. Ghost did a song for Halloween Kills. And then shortly after that, we went and saw them live in Columbus. And once I saw them live, it was over for me. I was like, oh yeah, this is my favorite band.
Yeah.
Like, this is my favorite fucking band.
Yeah, because it combines the best of everything. There's theater, there's horror, there's rock, there's silliness, there's metal, there's everything in between. It's an easy band to fall in love with. And the tie-in for this movie could not have been more perfect. In fact, I want to shout out the man in front of me right now before we get out of here as well. This dude took some fire ass photos for me to make the episode art for this, and I am thrilled as shit because I love when I get the opportunity to showcase anybody's artwork, no matter how it is, if it's hand drawn art or if it's photography, anything like that, a cosplay, that is right up my alley 100%. And I just want to say, hey, I appreciate you like literally taking time to do this specifically for this episode, because I fucking dig it. The lighting is on par with the film poster and the Ghost poster stuff that they've done with Papa 4. Hats off, dude. Or miters off even. It was so good.
Thank you. I'm glad you asked me to do that. I had a blast doing it, dude.
Yeah, I can tell.
I always have a blast, you know, whether I'm creating TikToks or whether I'm on set of a film or just anywhere I can be creative. I love messing around with lights and different shots and just finding ways to just convey, you know, a mood through either like a film shot or a picture. I love it.
Art speaks in different ways in different platforms, and it's always fun to find somebody, let alone make friends with them, because I've had fun collaborating with you on some things that haven't come out yet. Like, I'll just say that. So maybe as of this recording, but that's neither here nor there. I've had a blast doing that with you because just in being friends with you, dude, I love the fact that you and I can talk and then we can go like 2-3 days and pick up right back up where we leave off. And there's always something new that we're discovering about each other. Like, I was so happy we waited to talk on air about this movie and this franchise until now, because again, like you guys have all heard, like, oh shit, we have a lot of the same thoughts about this franchise, but that's not even it. It's not even just this franchise. It's about a lot of other stuff in life. So just getting to share that with you just outside of all this has been a blast and a half, dude. And it's
absolutely,
it's always fun to have you on here and just to talk. It's fun to talk to you day to day, and we will do this again. I definitely want to have you back on and talk about Halloween Ends. We shouldn't wait a year to do this, like for October. we should definitely do this like in the near future. So
I'm always down. Just let me know when you're able to, because that's a film I would love to sit down and just dissect with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a controversial film.
Yeah.
They made a lot of bold choices in the film, and I liked a lot of them, but some of them didn't quite do it for me.
I get that. I'm right there with you. I mean, including how they ended it and everything. Like, not that I didn't like it. It was very definitive, but like, we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. So, out there, if you haven't scrolled to the show notes to check out everywhere that you can find TikTok Papa, can you tell the listeners, if they haven't heard about you, which I'd be surprised if you haven't by now, if they haven't heard about you, where can they find you? And it's not even just TikTok Papa. You have a couple of other like IG accounts that you do cosplay with, correct?
Yes. Okay, so I have two TikTok accounts. One of them is at TikTok Papa Emeritus. That's where I'm going to post all my fun ghost content, and I have a blast doing all that stuff. Whether it be silly little, bye dancing videos or like a cinematically shot Hunter's Moon video. It's full of a variety of different, like, just fun, unique things, and that's what I kind of strive to do. Is I want to keep it fresh. I want to keep things just different, so people are surprised when I post. I have another account on TikTok called @MasksOfTerror. That's where I will post all my other horror cosplays. You'll see Jason Voorhees from Part 6, which is my favorite Jason film of all time.
Same.
So I've got a sick-ass Jason Part 6 cosplay. I've got a Pinhead. I've got Jason Voorhees. I've got Corey Cunningham from Halloween Ends and Michael Myers. And more to come. I've got more to come.
Yeah,
I just have to wait to drop them.
Yeah, I've seen your mask collection, and like because all you guys out there that haven't seen any of this yet, it's fun because anytime I get to FaceTime with you, dude, like I will be paying attention to you, but I will also be kind of looking in the back, like, hey, I know that guy, and it's not even you, it's the head on the shelf back there. I'm like, oh, I know that guy, and that one too, So
oh, you just gave me an idea for a TikTok.
Hey, do it,
brother. A Halloween 3 TikTok.
Oh, fucking perfect.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna so fucking do that.
Well, shit, if anybody out there listening wants to keep up with this, please scroll to the show notes below. I will have links provided for all the accounts mentioned. I will have links to the Instagram and TikTok accounts associated with both of them, Masks of Terror and TikTok Papa Emeritus. So it's easy. You scroll up, click, and subscribe, and follow, and all that good stuff. Because this man is nothing less than entertaining. I guarantee it. Trust me. I've been part of a couple of these things. I would know.
And it's an honor to have you on board, especially for the chapters. And you know what's to come.
I do know what's to come.
Know it.
I do, and that's been fun shooting for that as well, because knowing the end game and keeping people on their toes, and I'm excited to see this unfold. So again, if you want to keep up with what the chapters videos are, subscribe to TikTok Papa on TikTok at TikTok Papa Emeritus in the show notes below. Again, scroll, click, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. Dude, thank you so very much for coming back to hang out with me. This has been a blast. I know we're going to do this again. I know I'm going to talk to you like literally after we get done recording and beyond that. But thank you once again for just doing this and just being fucking awesome. And being not just a ghost brother, in arms, but a fucking horror brother, dude. Like I love getting to just talk about this shit with people, that are just as into it as me. So
yeah, absolutely. And I want to thank you for being you. Thank you for being an amazing support system for me when I need it. Thank you for just being a wonderful friend overall. And thank you for having me on here once again. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Anytime, my friend. And happy Halloween to everybody out there. This Thursday is Halloween. This is a Sunday, but we're gonna tell you happy Halloween right now, because this is your Halloween episode for this month. It's just taking place a day after the Night of the Witch Station Head radio ritual. So again, happy Halloween, everybody. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. And TikTok Papa, we'll see you next time, my friend.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
And once again, if you want to follow TikTok Papa on any of the social media platforms that he's available on, including Masks of Terror, you can find this all in the show notes below. For past, present, and future episodes of GonstFM Off Air, you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. You can leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. You can leave a rating and comment on individual episodes on Spotify. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, please consider subscribing to the channel, clicking the bell for notifications for future episodes, or maybe leave a comment down below. Any engagement helps. If you would like to attend a monthly GonstFM Station Head radio ritual, if you would like to buy GonstFM merchandise, or if you would like to join the official Facebook group GonstFam, all of this can be found in the Linktree link in the show notes below. And so, my dearest Gonslings, that brings today's episode to a close. Some of you I will see in Internet Land, and the rest of you I'll see in GonstFam. Take care of yourselves, and remember, until next time, in Gonst, we Tronst. I'm Richie. I'll see you next time.